佳人
A beauty. There was a beauty who lived in an empty valley. She said she was from a good family and was forced to wander and had to stay in the wilderness. There was a war west of Tong Pass, and her brother was killed. Even though he was a high official, she couldn't even bury him. Once she failed, people avoided her. That was the true human trait. Everything was like the candle in the wind. Her husband was a faithless fellow, and his new wife was like white jade. The flower knew when to open. The yuan-yang birds never stayed alone. He only heard the new person laugh and couldn't hear the old person cry. The water in the mountain was clear. After it ran outside the mountain, it would turn muddy. She chose to stay inside the mountain and be true to herself. Her maid pawned her pearls and took vines to mend the cottage. She picked flowers but did not put them in her hair. She gathered handfuls of fragrant pines. When the weather got cold, her sleeves were skimpy. When the evening came, she leaned on a thin bamboo.
梦李白
Dreaming of Li Bai. There is nothing to say when one is dead. When one thinks of a living friend, one's heart is broken. In the marshy south, the demoted wanderer is without news. My old friend, you enter my dream because I think of you. You are caught in a net. How can you spread your wings? Can it be your spirit? Because where you are is too far away, and it is not clear whether you are alive today. But when your spirit arrives, the maple grove is green. When your spirit leaves, the border fort is dark. The fallen moon is on the beams. The water is deep, and the waves high. Don't be caught by the flood dragons. The cloud floated all day. The wanderer did not arrive. I dreamt 3 times about you. In the dreams you were merry and warm. I knew it was you then. You said a hasty goodbye, and said repeatedly that it was difficult to visit. The waves of the Yangtze River and of the Dongting Lake were high and capricious. The boat was not safe, and you were afraid of drowning. You scratch your white head at the door, as if you haven't gotten what you want from life. The capital is full of people prosperous and famous, and you alone are wasting. Who says the net from the sky is not enveloping? You are caught in your old age. Your name will last 10,000 years, but that will be after the demise of your lonely existence.
兵车行
The weapons and the chariots. Wheels of chariots squeaked. War horses neighed. Travelers' arrows and bows were at their sides. Parents, wives, and young children came to say goodbye. Dust filled the air, and one couldn't see the Xiangyang Bridge. Families grabbed at the soldiers' clothing, crying and stamping their feet on the ground. The sounds went straight up to heaven. Onlookers asked the soldiers why wars were so often. Unlisted replied that some of them went to defend their country up north when they were 15. They were still stationed at the West Fields when they reached age 44. When they left the country, the magistrate wrapped a scarf on their black heads. Now their hair white when they returned. Blood ran like sea water on the border. The ambition of the Emperor Han Wu didn't stop. Haven't you heard that in the Han Dynasty, 1,000 and 10,000s of villages in the 200 counties west of the Yellow River grew weeds? Even able-bodied women tilled the land. The country was still in chaos. The soldiers of Guanzhong were excellent fighters and were sent to battlefields like chicken and dogs. Even if you had questions, how dare I answer? Like this winter, the enlisting never stopped. The magistrate asked for taxes. Where would the taxes come from? If one knew giving birth to boys was a calamity, they would prefer girls. To rear a female child, one could hope to marry her to a neighboring lad. To rear a son was to send him to be buried in the West Front. Hadn't you seen the banks of Qinghai Lake were dotted with the white bones? The new ghosts with bitterness, and the old ghosts with sorrow. They chirped incessantly in the overcast weather.
高杜户冲马行，
The horse of Gao Du Hu. The green horse of An Shi Du Hu. You were brought to the capital with fame. You had not met an able opponent. Like men, you wanted success. After establishing success, you came to the place your owner intended you to stay. You had galloped in from the desert and were independent. You wanted to go back to the battlefield to establish new victories. Your joints were stable and strong. Your 4 hooves thick and could lift high, stepping on the ground like stepping on iron. How many times your hooves crushed the ice on the river. Rainbow-colored clouds spread over your body. You ran 1,000 miles before you sweated blood. The brave young men dared not to ride you, knowing that you took off like lightning. Your master dressed you with green silk bite in order for you to retire. You ran out of the horizontal gate and galloped toward the west.
茅屋为秋风所破歌，
A cottage broken by the autumn wind. High autumn in August, a gale wind blew. It rolled away the straw on my thatched roof. The scattered straw flew across the river. High ones hung on the high branches. Low ones sank in ponds and holes. Children from the south village took advantage of my old age. They openly gathered the straw and brought them into the bamboo grove. My lips were parched, and I couldn't shout out loud enough. I returned home with the help of my walking stick and sighed. The wind stopped, and the sky turned gray. Autumn dusk soon brought darkness. The cloth quilt turned stiff like cold iron. Our little child kicked the inside, filling a part. The roof leaked, and there was not one dry place inside the house. The feet of rain beat down like threads. After the war, I could hardly sleep. How to endure such a cold, wet night? How I wished there were big buildings sheltering the poor masses, buildings steady like mountains in the rain. When could I see such a building in front of my eyes? Then, if I froze to death in my broken cottage, I would have no regret.